Hello, this is Watch All About with another watch review, and in this review we're looking at an offering from James McCabe, in particular the Belfast. So let's start the unboxing process. We have this outer cardboard box, and then here is the nice wooden box within. So pretty smart, nice little buckle here as well. Yeah, quite an impressive box it comes in. So lift that up, and there we have the watch in question. So we have a JM soft padded top there, a plaque which says assembled in Great Britain. I don't entirely believe that. And in here we have a little instruction manual and a warranty as well, which is nicely done. So with the watch we have this little tag which tells us what model it is, and here's the watch itself. So here we go. Let's just move that out of the way. So yeah, a pretty nice above average box, that's for certain. So here we have the watch in question, the James McCabe Belfast. So the price of this is £315. So yes, I mean, of course it is, reasonably expensive, but we'll have a look at it in closer detail to discuss if it is worth the money. So let's start off with some of the specifications. So size-wise, I have a 7¼ inch wrist approximately, for your reference. Here we go. So 43.5mm diameter, so fairly large. We have a height of 12.5mm, and we have a lug-to-lug length of 51mm. So yeah, it certainly is on the slightly larger side of things. It still, because of the relative slender height, it does wear reasonably well, despite the size, and I think it looks, pretty impressive on, so it gives you plenty of wrist presence. Weight-wise, it's only 71 grams, so it's pretty lightweight, pretty nice and easy to wear. Water resistance is 5 atmospheres or 50 meters, so you are covered for a measure, for a little bit of water resistance there, but nothing too crazy. I certainly wouldn't go swimming in it. Lug width is 20mm. So for a 43.5mm diameter, it probably does look on the slightly slender side of things, but I think it can pass it off, and that tapers down at the buckle as well. You get a 2-year warranty with the watch, which is good in case anything should go wrong, and the movement is the Miyota 8N24. Now, it's not really a movement that I've come across too often, and it's primarily because it's partially skeletonized, and obviously they can use it for this open heart window on the dial. And here we have the case back displaying the movement, and we can see from the bridging, it's all very skeletonized. It looks very nice. Looks really neat and tidy as well for the movement, so that's really good. Specs of this movement include 21.6 thousand beats per hour, so it's got a 6 tick per second beat rate, approximately 42-hour power reserve, 21 joules, single direction winding. You can hand wind it and automatic. Obviously, it has an automatic winding as well because it's got a rotor. The one thing that's missing is that it's not a hack. It doesn't have a hacking seconds hand. So that's the main thing that people might be concerned with. But that never really bothers me too much. It's coming in at plus 15.5 seconds a day, so it is coming in pretty high. I don't think there's been any sort of regulation there, which is a bit of a shame, especially when you're paying £315 for a watch. The crystal isn't sapphire, but it is hardened mineral, so at least it's better than standard mineral. And as you can see, it's got a nice anti-reflective coating on it, which does catch the light nicely, so it does look pretty impressive when you're wearing it. Okay, so let's start off by just discussing it in closer detail, then starting off with the dials. If I give it a little bit of a wipe. So we have quite an unusual style to it, quite a rustic theme. I really like the style of it. I think it looks really, really good. Legibility is surprisingly good as well, considering the style. Is quite a dark backdrop. These kind of brass feel hands to them as well, and despite them being fully brushed, they do stand out nicely against the dial background. So it has a very, very rustic look to it, which I really, really dig, and it works really well with this kind of blasted, really almost pre-worn look to the case. Everything on the dial is pretty well constructed as well. I mean, the hour markers could probably do with being a little bit deeper, a little bit more impressive. But when you look at them up close, they're quite a nice unusual shape. We'll have a look at them with the macro lens on. I do like the hands as well. They could probably have been a little bit longer. I think like the hour hand could have reached the base of the hour markers, and maybe the minute hand could have reached a little bit further. So in terms of length, maybe they could have been a little bit longer. But I do like the shape of them. And obviously the finishing is pretty neat as well. Obviously the open heart movement, as you can see, is completely transparent as well. You can see right through it, which is really nice touch, and it has this really good border around it as well. So really well finished. I like the logo is on its own little plaque as well for print work, so it's all very nice and neat. It says at the bottom here, assembled in the UK. I'm pretty sure it's not, so that's very, very misleading that they put that on there. Moving on to the case then, as I mentioned before, the crystal has a single dome to it, so you do get a bit of distortion at tight angles, but it looks nice. And obviously we get that anti-reflective coating, like flash of blue, which is pretty cool to look at. As I mentioned before as well, we have this really cool pre-worn rustic vibe to it as well, which I really, really like. It probably will only appeal to certain people, but those of you who do like it, I think it will will impress you. Pretty standard size, pretty standard shapes, should I say, standard barrel, really. We have the James McCabe logo etched on the crown as well, which is nice and easy to use, just push-pull. And then moving on to the case back, we have a very slight polished edge around the bottom of the case back, which is quite interesting. Almost like that's where the worn finish hasn't quite reached, but it's quite nice to get a very small flash of polished finish, which is pretty neat. And then we have I forgot to peel off this little protective coating on the back. We have a very, very nice view of the movement here, various specifics lightly engraved around the outside of the exhibition window as well. So the case itself is pretty straightforward, but I really like it, especially because of the finish. Yeah. Moving on to the strap then. Again, going through with the rustic theme, we have a very rough top grain. Very nice and supple though, really comfortable to wear as well. You can see just from this how easy it is to manipulate. Really comfortable on as well. I do like the little stitching details as well. And it's also loaded with quick release pins, which of course are really, really handy. Makes it so easy to switch them out. Not that I think you would need to. I think it's that nice that I would certainly be happy keeping this strap on. Making our way to the buckle. Nice unusual design here. James McCabe logo on the end, but like quite a heavy top bar. It's nice to see something a little bit different, and this is certainly that. And it's quite well detailed and relatively deep as well, and it has the matching finish to the case, so it looks really, really good. Okay, so let's get the macro lens on, and we'll have a look at it in closer detail. So let's start off with the dial. So here's the logo and our hands as well. You can see this rustic brushed finish to the hands, almost distressed, which I think look really good. And here's our hour markers. You can see have slight beveled edges, which are nice, and numeral there at 12, and we'll have another one at the bottom here, 6. And we have assembled in the UK printed at the bottom there. And if we move on to our open heart, move my hand away from the back, you can see it ticking away in the background there. And we have this nice and neat border to it, which frames it really well. Looks good. That's probably a fake screw there, but then that still looks good. Fake screws usually look rubbish, so that's an alright looking fake screw. Okay, so moving on to the case then. We have this rustic pre-worn finish. Works really well with the entire ethos of this this watch. And then if we flip it over to the crown, again that gets that same treatment with the James McCabe logo, nice and accurately engraved on the end there. decent grip on the crown as well. Flipping it over to the case back, here's our details lightly engraved around the outside, and here's our movement. Just give it a very quick wipe. Here's our movement in our exhibition window. You can see, looks like we have a very light JM logo etched on the inside, which I didn't actually notice at all, and there it is. Really interesting that they've included that. Didn't notice it, so that's a nice little surprise. And our movement, as you can see, you have very skeletonized bridge. If I flip it upside down so we can see it ticking away, looks really good. Nice effective movement that works well in this instance. Moving on to the strap then, here's our stitching, and you can see how rustic and rough the top grain is. Really nice, good feel to it as well, good quality leather. And on the underside it's sealed, and we have some print stamp work, a bit standard, but nice to have the logo on the underside. And then finally moving on to the buckle, so JM there, and again our sort of brushed rustic finish to it. Okay, so the James McCabe Belfast costing £315. Personally, I think the RRP is a little bit high. That is usually the case with Dartmouth brand watches. Dartmouth brand being watches such as Aviate, Spinnaker, James McCabe. There's a couple of others as well. So usually they have a high RRP, and you can get them for slightly cheaper. So I think if you could get a deal on it, I think it would be a good option. It looks really good. Has a very distinctive, specific style, which works really well, and it is very unusual, different to a lot of things out there. So I really want to commend them for producing this watch in that kind of style and ethos. Really well finished as well. Really, the only negative is the fact that it's a hardened mineral rather than a sapphire. Everything else is really good. I do like the unusual movement as well. The Miyota A1024 looks really nice from the top and also from underneath. So yeah, really pleasant watch, surprisingly pleasant actually. And if only the RRP was a little bit lower, but if you got a discount on it, then I think it would be a very reasonable purchase. So this was the James McCabe Belfast, and that's what it's all about. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and also comment on any of my videos. Thanks, guys.